Hi, Sippy friends, Kandra here. Welcome to Wet Soap Wednesday, but we're not live. Yep, we're pre-recorded. Today is actually Friday, and 2 days ago on Wednesday, we made some hot process Castile soap, and I wanted to show you the results. So in just a moment, I'll go ahead and replay last week's making of the soap, so anyone that missed that can catch up on that. And if you want to go ahead and scrub forward to the end, you can see the cut. But before we even do that, let's look at the soap. All right, so I cut these, that large slab, I cut these into some cubes, and I wanted to show you the texture. And one thing that I love about hot process, you can see all these wonderful glycerin rivers. I know they're hard to see because I use all that charcoal in there, but you can still see them. It's very smooth texture, but we have these wonderful ripples from all of the glycerin in the soap. I just absolutely love it, love it, love it. I love the look and feel of hot process. This is the top of the soap. I did trim that off, not because it was ugly or I didn't want it. It was just to get the right shape of my bars. So yeah, the edges were not super smooth, but they're still beautiful. So even if that was the top of my bar, this would still be a lovely, beautiful bar of soap. Now, if you just noticed how easily this broke, also, I'm running my finger down here. I want you to see how kind of soft it is. It's not so soft that, I mean, I'm putting a good amount of pressure. It's not so soft that I'm going to ding it and ruin the soap or harm the soap, but I can smooth the edges, so it is still soft enough to cut. In fact, I just cut these maybe 2 hours ago. And it's Castile soap. So when you're making Castile soap, it can become very, very crumbly in cold process, even as soon as it's set up. So you need to cut it very, very quickly. With hot process, you don't need to cut it. You don't have to worry about cut time. You can cut it, in this case, even 2 days. I could have even waited an extra day or two if I wanted to, but of course I didn't. I wanted to get my soap cut. Here's just another edge piece for you. All right, so there you go. That's my hot process Castile soap. I did add some charcoal to it. It makes a wonderful facial bar. It's a very gentle soap that really helps to counteract the drying effect of some of the that you get from activated charcoal, which does a wonderful job of absorbing oil into it. And I hope you enjoy watching the soap being made. And if you just want to jump to seeing it being cut, nothing fancy. I'm just using my loaf splitter. It's a Hercules mold, and sliding some soap around and giving a couple bars a cut for you. You might be more interested in seeing the cook, which is about to come up right now. Help you have a fabulous week, and I will see you for the next Wet Soap Wednesday live over on Facebook. Thanks everyone for joining in. Alrighty, there we go. Thanks everyone for popping in. I'm pretty excited because we're doing some hot process. I love hot process. At first, it's like I don't do it all the time, but when I do it, it's just like, this is so cool. One of the coolest things I love about hot process is all the glycerin rivers. I think like that texture and what everyone calls that rustic hot process look, it's a lot from the glycerin rivers, and I get a lot of glycerin rivers with hot process because I do a higher water content. But we'll talk more about hot process as we actually make the soap. What we're, I guess, kind of sort of mainly talking about is Castile soap, or Castile. There is that, how do you pronounce it? That's all over in the blog post, but that's kind of what inspired this, is I did just put up a blog post about Castile soap. I'm holding up some olive oil soap. Olive oil, 100% olive oil as the fat is what makes a soap Castile. And these two are the ones we did from last week's. And they're still very yellow, but this one here, I will hold up so you can get a better look here. There we go. A little bit of less light glare on there for you. See this weird looking used bar? Do you know what this is? This is the very first bar soap I ever made. Well, it's what's left of the very first batch of soaps that I ever made. I learned to make soap as a homeschooling experiment with my kids. That's what they wanted to do for science. We had so much fun making this little bar of soap. I mean, it was a larger batch than this. So this is, oh my gosh, what, 12, 15 years old? I don't know. It's 100% organic olive oil. And the fun part of the story is we didn't have a stick blender. So we were making Castile soap. Didn't know that's what it was called. It's just the oil that we had. We did research in the library, lots of soap books. And I tell you, this took like 4 or 5 hours to come to a trace because we were hand stirring it, taking turns, and we even went so far as to put Netflix on and binged some Star Trek. It was hilarious. Back in the day, that's when Netflix came as DVDs delivered to you, and I don't think binging was called binging anything on Netflix. But anyway, I did want you to see the difference in the soap. So I am going to actually color the Castile soap that we make today. We're using some activated charcoal. But again, these are the two soaps that we made week before or last week. They're up on the YouTube channel. This olive oil is darker than this olive oil, so you can see kind of the difference in color. And I had said they're both going to fade to a white. They eventually do fade to this nice white. That does take quite a while, but with Castile soap, if you're using it for a body bar and want to get like the full experience, you age your Castile soap. You don't need to age them 15 years. 6 months, 9 months, a year, depending on it. There's some more information about that in the post. So let's, even though we're making the Castile soap, unless anyone has any questions on it, I'm just going to go ahead and start making our hot process and talk a little bit about hot processing. So the difference between hot process and cold process is with cold process, your soap saponifies in your mold. With hot process, it saponifies in the pot through heat, lots and lots and lots of heat. There are a couple different ways to do hot process. Most familiar is doing it in a crock pot on your heat source. My heat source is over here, and we're actually going to take it off the heat source because I have my oils at they're actually at 240 now. So I'm going to go ahead and move them over, and let me swap you over too so you can look down into the pot with me. These are our hot oils. This is quite a large, well, largish batch. It's more than the small 2-pounders that we're doing. So it's probably what, 8 pounds? I don't know. I never really measure my pounded soaps, but this is a Willow mold, slab mold. So we're going to fill this up and make a bunch of Castile soap with some activated charcoal. So one thing with hot process is these are my additives. It's a little bit of aloe vera and a few other goodies in there. I'm putting them on my warmer over here to keep them warm. With hot process, remember it's called hot process for a reason. You need to keep everything nice and hot. Hi Yanni, thanks for popping in. I see Janet's in there, D2. So yeah, we need to keep everything hot. So I'm keeping all of my additives warm. At the end, just before we add any of our beneficials, Superfat or anything like that that we don't want to saponify, we'll add it in afterwards. I'm also going to add my essential oils to that. I don't want to be warming my essential oils while I'm cooking, so I don't want them to disperse, and I just add them in at the end. So they're room temperature now. They're over here. And I'll just add those to the aloe vera. If I was doing a multi oil soap and there were some specific oils that I did not want to saponify, those would be added after the cook as a superfat. But this is 100% olive oil soap. No need to worry about superfat, but I will be adding in some additives after the cook to help with the fluidity, and also I don't want them to come in contact with the light monster. We're also very, very hot here, so we may get a volcano, we may not get a volcano. What I mean by a volcano is, well, a volcano, steam built up in our mass, bubbling up, oozing out, making a mess everywhere. It's kind of why I have an extra towel down here just in case. Yeah, so fingers crossed we don't get an over crazy, uncontrollable volcano, but we will get at least some mini volcanoes because that's how hot process works. So I'm going to put my gloves on here. Everything is very, 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 very hot. So this hopefully will go pretty quickly. And did I already take the temperatures for you? I am at 240 degrees. You do need to stay below well below the boiling or smoking point of your oil. Olive oil has a very high smoking point around 400 degrees. So we could go even hotter, but that's going to be craziness. So we are fine where we are here. This will continue to heat up once I add the sodium hydroxide. What I'm adding here is just the activated charcoal. This makes a really great facial bar. Let me just put this aside. Because the soap itself is so gentle, but that charcoal really does help with a deep clean. So I think it works really well. Really, really, really well. And you'll notice this was a dry botanical that I just added on into the pot. Didn't slurry it or anything. And that is, normally I would slurry a charcoal because it gets so messy. But if you notice, I had it in a giant bowl to contain any powder. I also am adding it to the entire batch. So I went ahead and just dumped it in. It does disperse just fine. I disperse it in both oil and water. Just depends on the design, at what point in time I want to add it. For this case, it's just easiest to dump it all in at the beginning. And then we're just stirring around here, making sure I don't have any clumps of charcoal. This is coconut charcoal. I did also, in the description of the video, link the my blog post on activated charcoal, and you'll see the difference between hardwood and coconut charcoal. So if I was to do this with hardwood in the same amount, we'd have more of a gray soap. This will come out with a nice black soap. All right, so checking temperatures again, and we're at 233, so we did decrease in temperature. Here's my lye solution that I had just recently mixed up, maybe about a half hour ago as I was getting things set up. And I am at about 170 degrees on my lye solution. Remember, I'm trying to keep everything warm. With hot process, you can add your, or really any Castile soap, you can add your lye solution just as soon as it's dissolved. So hot lye solution is great for Castile soap, especially if you're doing cold process, because it helps speed up the saponification. And as I know by experience, if you hand stir cold process Castile soap, it takes about 5 hours to bring to even a very light trace. So heat helps with all of that. Also, when you're doing hot process Castile soap, you don't have any of the issues cutting your soap. With cold process Castile, it can become very brittle. Do you notice how delicately I added that in? Because all this heat and lye, we're definitely going to be getting a lot of heat movement here. Oh, but as I was saying, with hot process Castile soap, you do not have any crumbling when you cut. Everything's nicely saponified. the glycerin. I do add a little extra water, which does help with a more fluid pour, as well as keeping a bit softer when you cut it. But really, if you compare hot process versus cold process Castile soap, it's easier to cut hot process. So let's see. I did lose more feet than I wanted to when we were chit-chatting. We were at 220. Yeah, we're at 220 now. But that is okay. I'm hoping that means I don't get a volcano that I can no longer control. I can never tell if you can hear me all right. Hi, Annie, for popping in while I've got the stick blender going. So I'll just speak a little bit louder and hope I'm not yelling at you. But while this is mixing up, I do want to remind everyone that everything on the website is on sale right now, 15% off through the end of the month, which is coming up next week. And that is in celebration of the Soap Challenge Club, where the challenge this month is all natural colors. Over on my Soapy Friends page on Facebook and on Instagram, I am sharing all of those soaps from soap makers around the world. As they come out, there are some amazing soaps. Oh my goodness, you guys definitely need to go check them out. I don't remember everyone's names, but there was this lovely drop swirl. I've seen these amazing butterflies. I think those are April D. Sunshine's butterflies. I know Edgar had a wonderful, wonderful soap. I mean, just so many pretty soaps out there. The design, oh my goodness. There was no required design in the challenge this month. It was any design you wanted. The challenge was the coloring. And I did not expect some of the crazy, insane, amazing design. It just really goes to show for those that participate in the Soap Challenge Club how amazing their design skills are. They really push themselves and challenge themselves over there in that group, and it's super supportive, lots of fun. If you haven't done it before, you totally should. And keep your eye out over the coming week for some beautiful natural soap colors being shared on social media. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. So one thing, going back to Castile soap, we're at a trace. Definitely emulsified, starting to trace. I'm just going to let this keep going probably till my stick blender says, hey, you've been doing this too long. I could put the lid on here and just retain the heat and let it do its thing. If this was not Castile, I probably would. We're still at about 220. We are dropping some. Just let it mix up a bit here more. But hot process, so I love, as I was saying, hot process because you get soap right away. You can, and this is a question people ask, how long does hot process have to cure? Or they assume that hot process soaps means they don't have to cure like cold process soaps do. But again, the only difference between the two is when saponification happens. Saponification is going to happen in this pot, not in this mold. And I've used lots of heat to achieve that. Now, I'll turn the blender off for a minute and we will close the lid. See how things go. Now, that's just saponification. And saponification and the cure time, they are not the same things by any means. The cure time or curing soap is letting the water evaporate from your soap. It has nothing to do with whether or not saponification happens. So After about 24 to 48 hours with your cold process soap, saponification happens and your soap is saponified. So if you make, on Tuesday, you make hot process soap and cold process soap, by Thursday morning, they're both the same. Ta-da! Simple as that. They have both saponified. You could use them both the same way. They will last pretty much the same way. There's a lot of same about it. The look is obviously different. The cure time, which comes after that, which depending amount of water in your soap can be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks or even longer. Like if we're dealing with Castile, where we're curing, you know, they're cured, we're still letting them age. That's all about water evaporation. That's really all that is, water evaporation. Once the water has evaporated, and you can typically tell the water has evaporated based on weight. This is still sitting here. I almost want to put this back on the heat and get it hot. But you can tell the water evaporation based on weight. So you weigh your soaps, and when they stop losing weight, then you know they've stopped losing water content. Then they are cured. You might want to let them set up or age longer. Some recipes, especially if they're high olive oil, you might want to let them set up and age for an extra month. If it's like a Castile soap, you'll want to let it set up and age 6 months to a year or more. I will tell you, the lather on my my very first batch of soap that I showed you, that is, I guess, 12, 15 years old now, is really awesome. It's very silky. It's definitely not like coconut oil, but it's not slimy or weird. I absolutely love it. Maybe I'll do a hand washing demo with it. I use it once a year in October. Maybe if I'll do that for you this year. Versus the freshly made Castile soap that we did a lather test on last week's live. It was a very, very slimy wash. So there is something to say for aging your soap. But again, that aging is very different than the cure. So we have saponification, which happens cold process 24 to 48 hours after you have molded your soap. With hot process, it happens in the pot from all the heat. Let's check our heat. Yeah, we're right. We're gaining heat now. We are at 230 again. So we were at 220. And then, so saponification, which happens in the pot with hot process, in the mold with cold process. Then you have the cure time, which is water evaporation. And then you have aging your soap, which I don't think there's any actual scientific proof that it does anything. But we do know from anecdotal evidence, meaning i.e. we try it and we experience it, that aging soap is pretty cool. Aging soap with potassium hydroxide, Beldy soaps, that definitely you can tell as well too. I really expected this to go faster, but I lost so much heat from talking with y'all. If I do put this back on the burner over here, you won't be able to look down in with me, but that's okay. Yeah, I think I might, just to get this moving along for a moment here. Just warm her back up a little bit. We were 240 when we started. Then we did a lot of chit-chatting. My sodium hydroxide solution was only at about, what did I say, 160, 170. That could have been warmer. That'll help retain heat as well. So we'll just pop this over and heat it up a bit. And I'll pull out the Castile soaps I showed at the beginning for those that just popped in. Both of these, or all three of these, are Castile soaps. This one is made with the olive oil is lighter in color than this one. I'll hold them down here, you get a better simulation. This is obviously darker. When this was first poured, this was green, this was yellow. Now this one here, it's about, I think it's a week older than this one. And then this bar here, that is this lovely creamy ivory color. This is what's left of the very first batch of soap that I ever made. As I was telling everyone at the beginning, the funny story with it is we didn't even own a stick blender. I didn't even really think I knew what a stick blender was when we made this. We hand stirred it, me and my kiddos, as our homeschooling science lesson, and it took like 5 to 6 hours to come to a trace. It was hilarious. So there's lots of good memories in with that soap. I did turn this up quite a bit. Let's see what's going on here. It's thickening up down at the bottom just a bit. So I'm usually adding my sodium hydroxide, which is a bit warmer, at that 240-degree mark. So we're about, and as I said, the amount of heat that we lost, that was about 10 to 20 degrees. So that really does matter when you're dealing with high temperature hot process. So it's supposed to be high temperature, as I said. In the pot, we are definitely, oh, there we go. We have our heat back. We are at a definitely thick trace. And it's bubbling already. See, we're at 238 in there. So it was just at 10 degrees. So you see that bubbling happening. Let's see if we can let it happen again. Oh, there, that. Put the lid back on for you. We really don't have to stick blend anymore. If I do stick blend, it has its pros and its cons, stick blending at this point in time, because I have to have the lid off in order to stick blend, so we'll lose heat. But agitation also creates heat, encourages saponification. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It will or will not. Can you see it bubbling itself though? That's so cool. Because there's no heat. It's just all residual heat. I'll go ahead and sneak in. Let me get my, the top is 230 degrees. So volcanoes, what they happen is because the top is 230, 240, 250. Can you see it raising up? It's raising up on itself. I'm going to need to stir now. If I don't stir, we will get that ball, we'll like start going everywhere. So I'm gonna stir crazy. Stir crazy. Oh! So I'm stirring down the volcano in order to keep it in the pot. I did grab my extra long, extra stirry handle spoon that I just like to stir with. And there's all sorts of heat rising off. And this looks very similar to the Christmas coal soap, because that is kind of like rebatching, doing the same thing, but incorporating a rebatch into it. But it is a very different soap. You see all that steam coming off? That steam is what makes a volcano. Oh, it's like you're looking into a black hole on my monitor. I wonder how much of the contrast you can see. We are definitely mashed potatoed. We are definitely past applesauce and mashed potatoes, getting into, oh no, there's some more mashed potatoes. You know, with the charcoal in here, it almost looks like a black, like fuzzy styrofoam going on. It's kind of cool. All right, there, it's done. It did its thing. It's calming down. That's what I mean by it's done. It's calming down. I don't think we're fully saponified, but that big, big push is over. Wasn't that cool? This is a super smooth, creamy batch of soap. Now, what I'm gonna do is add my additives in here. I will give this just a moment to see if anything else is going to happen. Make sure everything down there. Here, oh, I'll do a temperature too in here. We're at 249 to, there was a 255 in there too. So I do want to let it cool down, but it's hotter down at the bottom and the steam building up. If you don't stir to release it, that's when the volcano gets crazy and overflows. And you'll notice how fluffy this is, and it looks like I have more stuff in my mold. There is no additional stuff in the mold. It's just expanded with the heat, the steam. That'll all calm down here momentarily. Just letting the rest of the steam come out. And then we're going to add our additives. Not quite yet though. I'm still letting that cool a bit. These are, I'm going to warm these up a bit. I'm at 140 on my aloe over here. I'm going to let that warm up a bit on the burner. I'm pretty excited that we got all the reaction. I hope you could see it in the black hole of soapydom on that overhead shot. And yeah, we got all the reaction, but we did not have a volcano that resulted in a soap all over my table and the floor. I think that's probably my recurring nightmare with making soap on camera, is just a big explosion like that. Oh, hi, Ashley. Nice to see you pop in. Nona, Beach Hill Soapworks is here. Diane is here. Everyone else who I didn't see pop in, thanks for popping in. Good to see ya. I do believe I can see your comments as they're coming in. Not sure if there are any. If there are and I have not responded, that's just due to technology not being on my side today. If I did miss you, I do have the phone over here with your chat up. Sometimes if you don't interact with it, Facebook stops showing it to you. I am just wiping up a little bit of drizzle from the lid when I set it back there, and I'm moving my burner back and away so there's no burning happening. I'm going to add my essential oils kind of off camera a bit, but I'm just adding them to my after the cook additives, which in this case is just some aloe vera. Now, I could have easily withheld some of the olive oil because this is super fatted. I could have withheld that super fat and added it after the cook. It does help a bit with fluidity. Oh, did you all see this rise up? Lovely, lovely, lovely. But it does, adding oil after the cook does help with fluidity as well. But as I said, this is all olive oil, so there's no real benefit. So I just saved myself a little bit of math headache and dumped all the oil into the pot. We'll stir that down a bit. Let me take a glob of this up to the camera here, see if we can get that light different for you so you can kind of see some of the consistency. We'll have to do this again with maybe some orange soap so you're not looking into a black hole of soap on camera with me. But it's nice and smooth. Looks great. It's not as fluid as I want right now, but I still have some stuff to add. So we're just going to let the rest of this heat finish escaping. But see, isn't this nice and calm? There's like no stress. You're just hanging out here. Got your soap going on. And the most cumbersome part of this, I think, is adding the after the cook ingredients, because you want to make sure they are fully incorporated. And we are going to go ahead and add those, I do believe. Now, I do say that I like to add this closer to about 190 degrees, but I'm also going to get some of that 190 degrees by adding some of this lower temperature ingredients to this. That sissing, if you're hearing it, that bubbling and boiling is adding is basically the cooling off, steaming that's happening from this cooling off. It's cooling off because I added cooler temperature additives to the pot. So it has to cool off. That's just how things like that work. I could use a stick blender to help this along if I wanted to. I could, when I do this larger, sometimes I'll do this particular recipe 3 times the size of this. The only difference is, or the limitation with hot process is the size of your pot. And I do have a big giant pot that definitely would not lend itself to the video setup here. So we're just doing a third of the regular size batch of this, but it's still a pretty good size batch. And if you look at the other hot process video that I have up on YouTube, I did link it below. Has hot process 101 is what I called it. And it's just the basics of hot process, which we did kind of go over today, but you're also going to see in there stages of the trace that I pointed out as it's saponified in its little baby crock pot. But you'll notice it was a little baby crock pot. I do believe that soap took much longer to make than this larger batch, and that's because of the mass. That's simply due to the mass of the soap. The more mass you have with your hot process, the faster everything kind of seems to happen. It's because it retains heat better because of the mass. And just making sure this is all incorporated in. Can you see some of that steam coming off there? There we go. So and you know, we'll probably pop in and do a little bit of some fluid hot process demos. So some things you can do, or adding some yogurt, milks, anything with lactose that'll make a sodium lactate for you, or even sodium lactate, additional oils. All sorts of fun things like that to get more fluid batter. But yeah, I love the look of hot process soap, the feel of it. There's something about cooking it up that really kind of jives with me. I'm not sure I can pinpoint it, but I do love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's get this in the mold. Let's see here. Let me move this out of the way. And I'll try to make it so you can see me, because it's not going to pour. It's going to glop in. That was a little too heavy for me to kind of tip on my own there. I was trying to see if you could kind of keep you all in frame, but I think I'm not going to worry about that. So pardon me as I glop my soap for a moment here. I love the long handle on this guy here, but he's got a scooped bowl, so that kind of makes him, the soap kind of want to stick. There we go. I just needed a little bit of help getting that little bit out. Okay. And we'll just pack them down in. And there we go. A little more to scoop out. So I think it'd be lots of fun if some of you all that are doing hot processes, shared them over in the group or wherever you are more comfortable posting, and give me a little tag. I think it'd be lots of fun to see some of your hot process soaps. If anyone has some Castile soap that they have made, I would love to see your photos of it. If you let us know how old it is, that's super awesome. If any of you also have any photos of your Castile soap, maybe fresh cut versus the color of it changing after it has aged, that would be really, really cool too. I'll have some of those for us in about a year after the ones we made last week have done their aging. But it'd be great to see some of your soaps. I love, love, love seeing all of your soaps. So I hope you share some of those. And if you have any more questions about coloring your soaps, look how lovely and black that is. Lots of info on the website. There's the book, there's the master classes. Remember, everything is on sale through the end of the month to celebrate the Soap Club Challenge, the Soap Challenge Club going all natural this month. And keep a lookout on my social media pages, as I'll be sharing a lot of those soaps as the makers tag me, so you can see all the amazing talented designs and ooh and ah, because they are all natural colors. You're gonna be just amazed, some of the designs in there, and I'm sure some of them are some of yours as well. So give yourself a great big kudos, high five. Oh yeah, you totally rocked the design challenge this month. And I can't wait to see all the winners. That'll be lots of fun too. All right, we are done. We're done. We have soap in a mold and it looks awesome. I love me some hot process soaps. All right, I will, I'll cut these off camera, but I will archive this little soap making adventure up on YouTube for us, and I will include the cut in there. The next cool thing about hot process is cleanup is a snap. All I need to do is I'm gonna soak this pot in a little bit of water, but yeah, it's just soap. So I'll soak it, I'll wash it out, maybe give it a good extra rinse, and I'm kind of done there. I will have to, you know, soap up some of these dishes here, but super easy cleanup. Love, love, love me some hot process. All right, soapy friends, thank you so very much for popping in and making some hot process soap with me. All right, soapy friends, let's cut some soap. I told you before, nothing fancy here. I'm just sliding my slab through my Hercules soap splitter here. I do like this soap cutter. It is a loaf splitter and a cutter as well for single bars, so you can see how smooth the soap is. We'll go ahead and speed up here. The slowness of that first push was just due to the weight of the bar, so I'm just slicing these into loaves. Now we'll go ahead and take those loaves into smaller loaves so I can get my cubes. You can see it's still nice and smooth inside, and that last little bit was some of the top shred you saw that I showed you earlier. And then here's the other use for this cutter. I took the wire off, it's on a handle, and I can cut individual bars. I do admit I'm still getting used to cutting soap this way, so I'm not as proficient as I would like to be, but a little more practice should take care of that. Overall, I think it's a great soap cutter and worked great for my Castile soap here. All right, soapy friends, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all soon.